There are growing calls to release the Epstein files, release client lists. Ghislaine Maxwell is filing an appeal. And if there aren't additional indictments down the pike, will the public ever be truly satisfied?
La vida es un carrusel,
Former state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, Megan Hayes, former director of message planning in the Biden White House, and Michelle Price, Associated Press White House reporter. Welcome to you all. Dave, reaching out to you first here, because DOJ requesting the unsealing of Epstein grand jury transcripts. I mean, that is the most concrete step that the Trump administration has taken so far to try to advance a level of transparency. But will it answer questions that are still lingering about this case?
No, Alex, it's an attempt to placate the base. But even if the transcripts are released, and I doubt they will, because after all, Ghislaine Maxwell has an appeal pending before the Supreme Court, and she is urging the courts to reject the release of these documents because it could prejudice her own future cases. So I don't think they will be released. But
So it's been decided that the transcripts of the grand jury that indicted Epstein's ex-girlfriend, Maxwell, won't be unsealed. Judge says, according to AP News, New York transcripts of the secret grand jury testimony that led to the sex trafficking indictment of Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, won't be released. A judge decided Monday. So the judge said in a written ruling the government had suggested the materials could be released publicly, casually, or promiscuously, which would risk unraveling the foundations of secrecy upon which the grand jury is premised, and eroding confidence by persons called to testify before future grand juries. And it is no answer to argue that releasing the grand jury materials, because they are redundant of the evidence at Maxwell's trial, would be innocuous. So, a lot of people are just looky-loos and they're curious. I think some people are not genuinely concerned about the victims. They're just looky-loos, and I think that is a shame. Of course, there are a lot of us out here who care about and are concerned about the victims, and I pray for those people. I know Virginia, one of the prominent victims, if there is such thing, say a prominent victim, but she was very outspoken. She is no longer with us. May she rest in peace. But there's just a lot of people that are trying to use this case as a political football during the Trump administration, even though Biden had the same information. Biden could have released it. The Democrats that are in office, the Republicans that are in Congress in office now, they could have pushed to have this stuff released a long time ago. But, it just seems like we're just in a huge circus right now, and I think that's just not healthy for our government or the American people. These things need to be taken seriously. So again, the judge decided that it's not something that needs to be done, which is release the grand jury transcripts.
In their own request, has said that they will redact the names of any unindicted third-party co-conspirators.
Well, that actually would make some kind of sense, I guess, to redact it, because you can't just put people's names out there and the frenzied mob starts to attack them without any hardcore evidence. Again, they have not been indicted. So just circulating names out as possible co-conspirators without hardcore evidence and indictments is kind of irresponsible, and it could lead to prejudice in the public And if there does later become evidence where an indictment is going to be made, it could be hard for these people to get a fair trial.
That material is what the public is demanding. That's what the base wants. They want to know the names of the unindicted co-conspirators. So even if these transcripts are released, and I doubt they will be, they're not going to give the people what they want. This matter is not going away anytime soon unless and until the Epstein files are released, and that's not happening.
Yeah.
The whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country. And that's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total bullshit.
Okay, so NBC News is reporting that the meeting did, in fact, take place at the White House Wednesday night, and Epstein was among the topics discussed. What more are you learning about that meeting?
I mean, Alex, it's hard to believe that this isn't a thing that is discussed more often than just one meeting. This has been an ongoing internal communications issue for this White House. And the message has been convoluted, and it has been a self-inflicted wound for weeks or months now. You saw the way the vice president responded this week. He was very careful in his language, saying there was no meeting scheduled specifically to talk about Epstein. There was a lot of wiggle room in that response. But we're expecting this to be an ongoing discussion here at the White House because it's still something that's being debated internally about whether to release the transcripts and the audio, potentially, of that interview that Todd Blanche did with Ghislaine Maxwell just a few weeks ago.
So, Megan, what would your advice have been if you were a part of that Epstein strategy meeting? I mean, how can Trump dig himself out of this mess? And by the way, he thinks of himself as a marketing expert. Would he even be open to advice?
Well, it's hard to dig yourself out of something when you're so blatantly involved in it and tried to play this off as a hoax from the beginning. It's unclear to me why he let his base dig into this so much. I think that they are going to try to do everything they possibly can to turn the page. They've tried investigating Obama. Now they're doing a Russia meeting with Putin. Like, they are doing everything they can to try to turn the page. But the problem is the base, including people in Congress in the Oversight Committee, are asking people to and subpoenaing people to come testify. So this is just going to drag out longer. Those people are coming up to testify in October. This is months more of this just trickling out drip by drip. The best thing to have been is not do the big press conference at the beginning with those binders when they all stood there, and not to release a letter saying there were no files.
I don't think that they said there were no files. I think they said it wasn't a list. But I'm trying to be fair here with putting together this video because we all know how biased the left-wing media is and how big liars they are. Especially, we learned that during the Biden administration. So I want to flip a little bit to the other side and see what the other side is saying about this supposed meeting that they had at the White House regarding the Epstein files. Personally, I think that it isn't a distraction with all of the other things that's going on. There's been so many things going on. We have the tariffs, we have Russia at war with Ukraine, we have Israel fighting for the Gaza Strip and the Palestinians. We have prices for things in this country that have not gone down as much as people would like. So I know that the left-wing media and some of the MAGA base would like to stay hyper-focused on these Epstein files. But like I said, if there isn't an indictment coming out of it, what really, other than curiosity seeking, is this all about?
Can you give us some clarity on this meeting that is reportedly happening or happened last night at the White House about the Epstein files and how you're communicating the Epstein story?
So I've seen so many different fake reports about this. So let me set the record straight. There was no meeting at my house last night. There just wasn't.
Was there a meeting at the White House?
We did meet at the White House yesterday, but not at the time that they said that we were going to meet, and not about the subject that they said that we were going to meet about. We have a great FBI director and a great Department of Justice lead, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and we met to talk about how to ensure we have justice for the American people. We actually didn't talk about the Epstein issue at all. That was never meant to be the subject of the meeting. And it's one of those things where I guess somebody leaked a calendar entry maybe, and then people assumed that it must have been about Epstein, even though it had nothing to do with Epstein. On the Epstein issue, what the president has said very clearly, because we've had other meetings about that, is that he wants us to be fully transparent and he wants the credible information out there. So we're working to compile the thousands and thousands of documents that are out there for full transparency. But I have to say, Maria, I laugh at the Democrats who are now all of a sudden so interested in the Epstein files. For 4 years, Joe Biden and the Democrats did absolutely nothing about this story. We know that Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of connections with left-wing politicians and left-wing billionaires, and now President Trump has demanded full transparency from this, and yet somehow the Democrats are attacking him and not the Biden administration, which did nothing for 4 years.
Was it the right move for Comer to send subpoenas to the Clintons?
It absolutely was, and it drives home how, while the Democrats have tried to make this Epstein thing about anything but the fact that Democrat billionaires and Democrat political leaders went to Epstein Island all the time, who knows what they did, but it's totally reasonable to ask these questions. What you saw in the House's subpoena is they are trying to investigate all of the things related to this particular case. I know a lot of Americans want answers. I certainly want answers. And I think James Comer and the team of the House, they're doing the right thing. And of course, we know that Clinton, or allegedly he went to the island 26 times, 28 times. Totally appropriate for Comer to be asking what was going on at that island.
Let's take on growth.
So I'm going to wrap this video up with saying that I'm praying for all of the children out here who are being sex trafficked. There are many children who go missing that are kidnapped right here in America. And there was a funnel of unaccompanied minors coming into the country, and many of them are experiencing some of the most horrific abuses that anyone could ever imagine, and many are unfortunately no longer here with us on Earth. And these rings, pedophile rings, sex trafficking rings, they do need to be busted. They do need to be stopped. We do need a strong Department of Justice that's willing to seek justice. And just for the record, for anyone who thinks that these unaccompanied minors or kidnapped children or missing children or runaway children are not loved, I love them, and I'm praying to God for them. And I'm praying that we will have transparency, justice warriors that do get in positions of power in this country and do something about this epidemic that is going on, not just in this country, it's happening all around the world, where people feel that it's okay to prey on children, those unaccompanied minors. You know, people like Epstein may think no one cares about them, but there are people that care about these children out here. So I know a lot of people are just curiosity seeking, but it's not just about curiosity for me. It's more about justice. So I do want Trump to release the files, what he is able to release. I am disappointed that during the last administration, there wasn't this feverish pitch to release the files. But I guess the Democrats like to wait until Trump gets in office in order to do anything lately, or to press for anything, because they certainly could have had these files released under Joe Biden. But with them having all of these unaccompanied minors funneled into the sex trafficking system, by having those borders open like that, it's not a surprise to me that they didn't. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Comment below if you're so motivated to do so. This is Wonders of a Black Woman.
La vida es un carrusel.